I noticed the car before anything else. The party stretched across my husband's cousin's lawn like a magazine spread, white tents, tall centerpieces, hired waiters weaving through clusters of expensive laughter. Our old sedan ticked as it cooled beside a line of polished SUVs. I told myself none of it mattered. My daughter was 7. She cared about balloons, not brand names. She smoothed her dress and held the gift she'd wrapped herself. "Can I go play?" "Of course," I said, watching her join the other children at a long table set near the garden hedge. For a few minutes, everything looked easy. A beau admired, a giggle shared. Then I saw the subtle rearranging, the way children close ranks without appearing to. Chairs shifted. Plates moved. My daughter stood holding hers, waiting for someone to indicate where she belonged. One of the older girls pointed toward the side yard, near the catering bins and the tall trash can. "There's space there." My daughter walked over carefully, as if this were perfectly normal. She sat beside the trash, folding her napkin on her lap. Every time the lid lifted with a hollow thud, her shoulders tightened. I stepped closer, close enough to hear it. "She's poor. My mom said her mom's just a nurse. Lowly nurse." Another child clarified, repeating something learned at a dinner table somewhere. The words didn't sting the way they once might have. They felt tired. Predictable. What hurt was the way my daughter tried to pretend she hadn't heard. I crouched beside her. "You okay?" She nodded too fast. "It's fine. I can sit here." I had choices. I could gather her up and leave, make a quiet exit that would preserve her from the rest of the afternoon. Or I could stay and refuse to signal that we'd been pushed out. "I'll sit with you," I said, pulling up a chair. Across the lawn, the adults talked about renovations and private schools. My husband was laughing at something near the bar. No one else seemed to notice where we were sitting. Except one person. My husband's grandmother rarely raised her voice. She didn't need to. When she set down her glass and asked, "Why is my great-granddaughter sitting by the garbage?" the air shifted. A few heads turned. Someone chuckled lightly. "Oh, kids are silly. They're just playing." She didn't smile. "Bring her here." A cousin hurried over, flustered, motioning for my daughter to rejoin the table. The children scrambled to make space, as if this had all been an oversight. But grandmother wasn't finished. She looked directly at my daughter. "Who told you to sit there?" My daughter glanced at me. I gave the smallest nod I could manage. She repeated the words exactly as they'd been said. Poor, lowly nurse, without drama, just truth. Silence spread across the yard. Grandmother stood. She was small, but when she stood, conversation stopped. I was instinct. "Mary's hospital 3 years ago," she said evenly. "Most of you visited during the day. Then you went home." Her eyes found mine. She stayed. She held my hand when I couldn't breathe without help. She worked when others were sleeping. No one interrupted. "If you believe that makes her lowly," she continued, "then you misunderstand what keeps you alive." The cousin hosting the party shifted uncomfortably. A few parents murmured apologies toward no one in particular. Then she added, calm and unmistakable, "I host gatherings like this because I own this property. And I decide who uses it in the future. I will not have cruelty funded by my generosity." That was the moment the balance changed. Not dramatically. Not with shouting. Just a clear redrawing of lines. My daughter was invited to sit beside her instead. The children complied. The party resumed. But something had settled into it. A caution. A new awareness of who was watching. I didn't feel victorious. I felt steady. Exposed, maybe. Grateful that someone had named what I hadn't wanted to. On the drive home, my daughter stared out the window. "Are we poor?" she asked. "We don't have what they have," I said. "But that doesn't make us small." She nodded slowly. "You're not lowly." "No," I said. and neither are you. The red light ahead turned green. I drove on, understanding that the real shift hadn't happened when grandmother spoke. It had happened when I chose not to move from that chair beside the trash. Dignity, I realized, doesn't need to be loud to be unmistakable.